Hello there everyone. Welcome back to English with Catherine. As you can see, I'm sitting on the sofa today because this is a particularly cozy video. Recently, I've just been thinking, what are my favourite quotes? And it got me thinking, yeah, which ones would I choose if I had to choose 10? And I did. And here they are. These quotes are from a mixture of different lovely human beings. We have some authors, writers, poets, even a singer, and a princess thrown in for good measure. You'll notice that one of them comes up twice because I absolutely love him and everything he represents. Sometimes a small, short sentence can convey more meaning than an entire story. And some people, they've just got the gift of the gab, which means they just know how to talk. They just know how to sum up a really big, deep idea in a really short, concise way. It's a real talent. So get comfortable, get cozy, make yourself a cup of tea or coffee, sit back and enjoy the video. Number 1, Britain, the land of embarrassment and breakfast. Such a funny quote. So true. We are very easily embarrassed. We spend most of our time blushing, turning red in the face. Or we're eating breakfast. We're either embarrassed or eating breakfast. One of the two. So this quote was said by the famous writer and human rights activist called Julian Barnes. I'm a big fan of quotes that really sum up the culture of somewhere in a really small, short way. And you know, the English breakfast is very important to us. It was designed to be able to fuel miners and people doing manual work because of the high calorie content. And it's something I have from time to time. It's not something I have every day. The English breakfast is something I have on a weekend from time to time, and it's delicious. Number 2, not all those who wander are lost. What a lovely quote. You know, some people who seem like they've got their head in the clouds, they're not lost. They're just taking a different route to you. They're just taking their time, taking the scenic route through life. That's kind of what I do. And this quote was by the famous writer J.R. Tolkien. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And he wrote The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, of course. The quote, "Not all those who wander are lost," is actually the second line of a poem that he wrote. And the poem is called The Riddle of Strider. This poem is actually inside the story of The Fellowship of the Ring. I really recommend it. It's just so imaginative and fantastical. And while we're talking about the quote, I absolutely love the word wander. To wander is just to walk slowly, taking in the sights, being observant. You're not necessarily trying to get to your destination really fast. You're just taking your time and looking and smelling and hearing everything. One of my favourite words. Number 3, a little nonsense now and then is relished even by the wisest men. I absolutely love this because, in my opinion, we should have more nonsense. So this is in the story of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl, who was a famous British writer for children. So he wrote children's books. This man was an absolute genius. Honestly, his imagination, his books are even for adults as well because they're so amusing. And the illustrations as well, it's just perfection. And this quote, a little nonsense now and then is relished by wise men, is just a great reminder not to take life too seriously. When we were children, we would just mess around and have fun, and there's no reason why we can't just go back to that every now and then. It's also very British to laugh in the face of doom and gloom as a coping mechanism, and it's kind of in our culture to just laugh when things are really hard. Trust me, it really works. So a little nonsense doesn't do anyone any harm, trust me. Number 4, it isn't what we say or think that defines us. It's what we do. What a powerful quote. I mean, it's kind of another way to say actions speak louder than words, or maybe even actions speak louder than thoughts. That's not even a quote. Maybe that can be my quote. This was written by the English author Jane Austen. Of course, she's famous for her novels Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, and Emma. And this quote is from Sense and Sensibility. Her incredible writing was ahead of its time, even back then, and the books I find are chock full of wonderful quotes that you can just live your life by. And really this quotation is saying that your actions define who you are. The legacy that you will leave after you pass away will all be related to what you did in your life, not really what you said. If you want to romanticize England or British things, you really should just read Jane Austen's novels. I'm actually going to do a video of Jane Austen quotes. I've just thought about it, and I'm going to do that. I think that's a good idea. Number 5, I knew what my job was. It was to go out and meet the people and love them. This was by the wonderful Princess Diana. And this quote was taken from one of her many controversial interviews where she just used to say how she felt. And this used to shock people because she was saying what needed to be said. She shone a light on mental health issues, which back then were a real taboo to talk about. So even then she was trying to pave the way for more awareness of mental health issues. Alongside her strength and courage and bravery, she was also the kindest woman. And that is just obvious in this quote. She spread love and she was just kind and went and did all these amazing things for charity. And yeah, I just love watching interviews of Princess Diana. I really recommend them. Number 6, you don't have a soul. You are a soul. You have a body. This is quite complex, isn't it? Especially as it shows the use of have in British English. I was talking about that in my other video about how we use have for everything. And here you can really see that in this quote. We have a body, but we are a soul. The soul is the most important thing. So this quote was written by the famous British writer C.S. Lewis. He was born in Belfast, Ireland, and he wrote the Chronicles of Narnia. You will not even believe the depths of this man's imagination. One of the stories from the Chronicles of Narnia is called The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. It is such a lovely story, and after reading that book when I was young, every time I saw my wardrobe, I thought, if I go into my wardrobe, I might go into another world. It's just amazing. I won't give you any more spoilers. Our souls are the most important thing to remember. And really, we are just souls travelling around in vessels, which are our bodies. The body is simply cells and matter. The soul is much more intriguing. Might still exist after we've gone, so we should probably look after it. Number 7. Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. Oh, John Lennon. What a legend. He was a singer, but also a poet. His lyrics are amazing. This quote is from a song called Beautiful Boy, released in 1980. Now, if you don't know who John Lennon is, I'm sure you do. He was from the popular band, the Beatles, of course. Their music changed the world. The pop music that we listen to today, and all music we listen to today, was influenced in some way by the Beatles. Their music also marked a huge shift in the way people thought in the 60s. It was just this amazing time for politics, for liberation, and their music just perfectly encapsulates all of that. Now, just to look at this quote, life is what happens when you're busy making plans. That is so important to remember, because if you're someone like me, I love planning. I'm always planning everything. I'm trying to control everything I do. Every dinner I cook, every outfit, I will plan it if I can. And this just reminds me to live a little bit in the moment, enjoy the here and the now, because life will pass you by otherwise, and you could wake up and you're 84 and you haven't experienced life properly or been present in those moments. Now, I know that sounds a bit scary. I'm sure that won't happen, but it's just to make sure it doesn't happen, really. Number 8, to love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. Another man that was ahead of his time in the way he was thinking was Oscar Wilde. One of my favourite people ever. He was a very, very popular Irish poet and playwright in the early 1890s. And these days we talk a lot about self-love and, loving yourself, because if you don't love yourself, no one else can love you. It's the first step to getting into a good relationship, friendships, being a better sister. All your relationships need to start with self-love. And that notion seems to be a modern one. But Oscar Wilde was talking about it and writing about it back in the 1890s. The man was ahead of his time. So this quote was actually from one of his very famous plays called An Ideal Husband. And this came out in 1895. There's something really special about a quote that was said years ago and maybe even fell on deaf ears. Maybe people at the time didn't even really understand or comprehend or really appreciate the meaning and the intelligence and the depth that these quotes are conveying. And over time, they've gathered momentum, and now they're even more relevant than ever. Number 9. We're all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. What a lovely quote. This is by Oscar Wilde again. I did tell you that I really like him. So the gutter means we're all lying in some ditch at the side of a road. We're all in the same boat, we're all in the same difficult situation on this earth. We're trying to navigate life. We don't know why we're here. We're trying to find meaning. So this quote just, I guess, for me means being positive, finding the meaning, the purpose in life, even when times are hard, even when things don't really make sense. Number 10, the last one. If everyone minded their own business, the world would go round a great deal faster than it does. Now this quote is from Alice in Wonderland, one of my favourite stories and Disney films, actually. I love that film, that animated film. It's amazing. It really captured my imagination when I was young. I loved the nonsensical nature of it. So Lewis Carroll was a wonderful British writer, and one of his famous works was Alice in Wonderland. Now, a lot of Alice in Wonderland quotes reveal deeper truths. They're just really clever language. And Alice in Wonderland has been called a unique inspiration because there's really nothing else quite like it. And I love this quote. It's so simple and obvious. If everyone just minded their own business and stopped judging others, stopped prying into other people's lives, the world would go round quicker. It would develop faster. We'd probably be more developed than we are now. Well, that's the end of the video, everyone. I have to say I'm in a really relaxed mood now and I really want to go and read a book. I've really wanted to read Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte for ages, so I've just ordered it and I'm going to read it. Tell me what you're reading in the comments below, or if you have a quote that you love. I would love to read that. In fact, definitely do that. That's a great idea. Once again, thank you to all of you for subscribing and watching my videos. It's really heartwarming and makes me smile every day. Wishing you a lovely weekend, and I'll see you next Friday for another video. Bye!